Hi, this is Adrian. Thank you for coming to my channel. Thank you for viewing it. Today's history lesson and ghost story is about Fort Anahuac. Colonel Juan Davis Bradburn sat back in his chair and closed his eyes. Holding his riding crop in both hands, he gently rubbed his brow and the leather-bound whip and listened to the outrageous lies of the colonel's leader. "Sir, are you listening to me?" Colonel William B. Travis slammed his fist on Colonel Bradburn's desk. Sleepily opening his eyes, Bradburn stared at the Texan. "These things you are saying are lies, my friend. It is against the Mexican laws for you and your companions to come in here making these false accusations without proof. A young woman's virtue was taken against her will, and you want more proof?" Travis shouted. "Her word against the word of my men? I am not going to believe an Anglo woman over my men. They were only doing their duty." Bradburn stood and walked to the window. He looked out at the compound, then turned back to the men in the room. "My troops say the young wench begged them to take her so her father and brother wouldn't have to pay the collections I sent my men to get from them. I do not call that against her will. If she offered her, shall we say, treasures, then she deserves what she received." Colonel Bradburn frowned and pointed to the door. "Now get out of here. I have work to do." Travis knew he wasn't getting anywhere and tried to be businesslike. Stood for a few moments thinking. Frustrated by the Colonel Bradburn's obvious disregard of his protests, Travis held his ground. "I will not leave until I have satisfaction in this matter." "Don't try my patience, Mr. Travis. I am a busy man, and I don't have time for your complaints." Bradburn turned to leave the room. Travis grabbed the colonel's arm and spun the smaller man around. "How dare you touch me? Guards! Guards!" Quickly, Travis and the men with him were surrounded with rifles pointed at them. "Let this pack of rabble-rousers cool their tempers in our stockade for a while, at least until I decide what to do with them. They will work like the rest of the convicts. Perhaps building a Mexican garrison will change their attitudes for the better." Bradburn smiled as his guards led William Travis, Monroe Edwards, Patrick C. Jack, and several others to the old wooden barracks. Shortly after the men were incarcerated, Colonel Francis Johnson received a message telling him of Travis's wrongful capture. Johnson dispatched a letter to Bradburn demanding the release of the Texans. Bradburn scoffed at the demands, and subsequently troops were assembled and the fighting began. The Fort Anahuac stockade was first established military in November of 1830. It was the garrison to protect against Anglo-American colonization, to collect custom duties in Texas, and to enforce Mexican law passed on April 6, 1830. Fort Anahuac was a short-lived outpost. The capture and subsequent release of William B. Travis and his volunteers in 1832 saw most of the fort dismantled by Texas troops. 4 months after Colonel Travis' release in November, a fire gutted the wooden sections of the fort. Ultimately, in December, the stockade where Travis and his men were unjustly held burned to the ground. The settlers of the area did not allow the good stone fireplaces and chimneys to go to waste. They carried them away one stone at a time for use in their own homes, leaving nothing but ruins behind. When Mexican troops tried to reopen the fort in 1835, they ordered lumber to be shipped in from the rebuilding for Fort Anahuac. Outraged, Texans, including William Barrett Travis, burned the lumber before it reached Anahuac, forcing the Mexican troops who had no artillery to hide in the woods and leave the area forever. Fort Anahuac was never reopened. The land where Fort Anahuac stood became private property. The story of Colonel William B. Travis and his unjust imprisonment had begun in 1832. On June 10, 1832, William B. Travis and his volunteers' rebel yells were heard amidst the gunfire and confusions in the Spanish fort where much blood was shed. On June 12, 1832, the battle ended, but a war was just beginning. A war for Texas independence from Mexico. For Mexican reign had begun and sparked the fighting at Fort Maesco and adoption of the Turtle Bayou resolutions. The confrontation with Travis and the Texans resulted in Bradburn's and the Mexican troops' removal from the post. The shots fired that fateful day in the old stockade more than 100 years ago started a movement to free all men wrongfully imprisoned. The ghosts of some of those men seem to be imprisoned still. On a hot summer morning in June, a gray blanket of mist covered the earth after a downpour the night before. My friend Sammy and I visited the Fort Anahuac historical marker and witnessed a reincarnation of one of the most stunning scenes in Texas history. Vapors of humidity surrounded a pale figure we determined to be Colonel Francis White Johnson as he rode a great black stallion along the perimeter of what was once Fort Anahuac. He was quietly directing his troops and seemed intent on freeing several men who were yelling for help. He dismounted and walked toward another mist-surrounded operation, a wooden building with voices coming from within. My friend and I watched in awe as Johnson, in slow motion, reached the old wooden barracks and told the men inside to stand back. He reached for his flintlock pistol and shot the lock off the massive door. The heavy, acrid smell of gunpowder permeated the air. Several prisoners, including William Barrett Travis, burst forth the darkness, yelling rebelliously, then vanished into the fog covering the area. June 12, 1832 is a date etched in the minds of Texans everywhere. The start of the war for Texas independence spread throughout the territory, igniting fires in the hearts of men across the nation. While walking through the ruins of Fort Anahuac and standing quietly in the early morning light, I heard the echo of the first shots fired in Texas's fight for independence, along the voices of men who fired these shots. If you go visit on a hot, muggy morning after it rained the night before, perhaps you too will see the ghost of Colonel Francis White Johnson and hear the shots of Texas' war for independence. That concludes our story for today. Thank you for watching. Please hit that like button and subscribe. See you tomorrow.